The unseen prison. You're standing at a crossroads. One path is 1,000 others, lit by the glow of 100 screens, promising connection but delivering only a quiet solitude. The other path is a forgotten one. It's a path you walk alone, in the silence of your own mind. It's here that the real journey begins. The world tells us we are free. We have options, choices. 1,000 paths laid out before us on a glowing screen. We can be anything, go anywhere. But what if all this freedom is an illusion? What if we've built a cage out of our own choices? A prison without walls, a cell made of the constant silent comparison to others. This isn't a new phenomenon. Humans have always looked to their neighbors to gauge their own standing. But today, the neighborhood has expanded to the entire world. Our neighbors are filtered, edited, and curated versions of themselves, presented as the unvarnished truth. The subtle daily anxieties of the past have been amplified into a constant digital hum of inadequacy. We are constantly connected, yet perpetually alone. We crave validation from strangers, measuring our worth in fleeting likes and anonymous comments. Our identities are no longer built from within, but are curated for an audience. We are performers in a play we never auditioned for, and the stage is a feed that never ends. There's a quiet dread that has found its way into our lives, a feeling that lives just below the surface of our consciousness, humming in the background of every moment. We can be in a room full of people, laughing and talking, and still feel it. We can be scrolling through an endless stream of digital landscapes of perfect lives and curated happiness, and the feeling only deepens. It's the unsettling sensation that our life, as it is, falls short. That somewhere, somehow, everyone else is holding a secret to joy that we haven't been let in on. They seem to have it all. The perfect vacation, the effortless career, the loving family, the serene, sun-drenched moments we only ever see in photographs. This is the central paradox of our time. We have more access to information, more choices, more tools for connection than at any other point in human history. Yet we feel more disconnected and isolated than ever before. We are the most documented generation, meticulously capturing every meal, every milestone, every moment of triumph. But in our frantic effort to prove our lives are worth living, we've forgotten how to simply live them. We've become prisoners of an invisible, self-imposed cage, a cell built not of iron and stone but of comparison, of envy, of a constant gnawing desire to be someone somewhere else. The world tells us we are free. We have options, choices, 1,000 paths laid out before us on a glowing screen. We can be anything, go anywhere. But what if all this freedom is an illusion? What if we've built a cage out of our own choices, a prison without walls, a cell made of the constant silent comparison to others? This isn't a new phenomenon. Humans have always looked to their neighbors to gauge their own standing. But today, the neighborhood has expanded to the entire world. Our neighbors are filtered, edited, and curated versions of themselves, presented as the unvarnished truth. The subtle daily anxieties of the past have been amplified into a constant digital hum of inadequacy. Psychological and social perspective. This is the modern prison. Not a cell of iron bars, but a cell of social comparison. Psychologically, this is a feedback loop of upward comparison. We don't compare ourselves to those we perceive as having less, but to those who seem to have more success, more beauty, more freedom. This triggers a biological response, a feeling of threat, of falling behind. Our brains, wired for social hierarchy, are screaming, "You are not enough." Socially, this creates a collective delusion. We are all presenting our best selves, and in doing so, we're all looking at everyone else's best selves. This creates a hyper-reality where genuine vulnerability is seen as a weakness, and the struggles of ordinary life are kept hidden. The result is a society filled with individuals who feel isolated in their imperfections, believing they are the only ones who are not living a life of effortless perfection. We've replaced genuine self-reflection with a frantic external validation hunt. We seek to be seen, but in the process, we lose sight of ourselves. We have 4 different examples. This phenomenon plays out in every corner of our modern existence. It's a quiet epidemic, manifesting in ways we barely recognize. First, the workplace and status anxiety. The office has always been a place for comparison, but the modern corporate culture, with its focus on hustle culture and public-facing success, has made it a breeding ground for status anxiety. We compare salaries, job titles, and the perceived work-life balance of our colleagues. The constant promotion of rock star employees and best workplaces creates an unspoken pressure to constantly outperform. This upward comparison leads to burnout, stress, and a pervasive feeling of not being good enough, regardless of personal achievements. The promotion of a colleague isn't just a happy event, it becomes a personal benchmark of our own inadequacy. Second, dating apps and a marketplace of people. Dating apps have transformed the search for a partner into a marketplace. We are presented with an endless stream of profiles, each a meticulously curated advertisement. We swipe left on people who don't fit our perfect list of criteria, and right on those who seem to. This creates a dehumanizing cycle where we are both the consumer and the product. We compare our number of matches, our appearance against others' photos, and our perceived market value as a romantic option. This constant objectifying comparison erodes self-worth and turns a natural human desire for connection into a competitive sport where most people feel like they're losing. Third, parenting and the illusion of perfection. Social media has created a new standard for parenting. The perfect parent is always smiling, with impeccably behaved children, a spotless home, and an endless supply of creative educational activities. We see mommy bloggers and parenting influencers, and compare our own messy, chaotic, and often exhausting reality to their carefully edited highlight reels. This upward comparison leads to feelings of guilt and shame. We believe we should be doing more, that our children aren't excelling enough, and that our failures as a parent are public knowledge. Fourth, the consumption of aspirational content. From interior design accounts to travel influencers, we are constantly consuming content that sells us an aspirational lifestyle. We compare our own homes to staged photos of minimalist apartments and our vacations to the exotic, perfectly captured trips of others. This fuels consumerism not out of need, but out of a desire to bridge the gap between our current reality and the idealized life we see online. We buy new clothes, new gadgets, and new experiences, hoping that by acquiring these external things, we can fill the internal void created by comparison. The Stoic philosophy. So what do we do? How do we escape this invisible cage? This is where the ancient wisdom of Stoicism offers a quiet rebellion. It doesn't tell us to run away from the world, but to change how we see it. The Stoics understood this prison long before the internet existed. They saw that our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. The Stoics, like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, would tell us that we have control over only one thing: our inner world, our thoughts, our beliefs, our reactions. We don't control the number of likes on our post, the success of our neighbor, or the curated image of someone else's life. These are all external things, indifferent to our happiness. The first step is to dissect the judgment. When you feel a pang of jealousy seeing a friend's vacation photo, ask yourself, is it the photo itself causing this pain, or my belief that my life is less worthy because I'm not on that beach? The Stoics would argue it's the latter. The photo is just an image. The judgment is yours alone. It's a truth that's both liberating and humbling. It means we hold the key to our own freedom. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote in his Meditations. If you are pained by any external thing, it is not the thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it, and it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. The second step is to practice acceptance of what is. Social comparison is a form of resistance. We resist our present reality in favor of a perceived better one. The Stoic instead says, "This is my life, these are my circumstances. I accept them not with resignation, but with a quiet dignity. I will work on what I can control and let go of what I cannot." This isn't passive surrender, it's an act of radical self-trust. It's the conscious choice to invest your limited energy where it can actually make a difference, on your own character and your own actions. This practice of acceptance leads to a profound shift. We begin to find meaning in the mundane. The simple act of drinking a cup of tea becomes a moment of gratitude. A walk in the park is no longer a means to an end, but an experience in itself. We stop living for the highlight reel and start living for the quiet moments that build a life. We realize that a life of deep purpose is not about achieving what others have, but about cultivating a rich and meaningful inner world. As Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." The Stoic path is not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally intelligent. It's about recognizing that the discomfort we feel from social comparison is a signal. It's a signpost pointing us back to ourselves, back to the question, what truly matters to me? In a world that constantly tells you to look outward, the Stoics tell you to look inward. They teach us that true freedom is not a matter of having more choices but of needing fewer. It's the freedom that comes from knowing who you are, what you value, and that your worth is not a metric to be measured by others. It's the tranquility that arises from a life lived with integrity and purpose, independent of the external applause or criticism. To understand the full weight of this modern predicament, we must turn to those who study the human condition from different vantage points. The physician, the psychologist, the historian, each has a unique lens through which to view this silent epidemic. A precise physician's opinion. From a medical and psychological standpoint, the constant practice of upward social comparison is not just an emotional drain. It is a profound threat to our physical and mental well-being. Dr. Sarah Miller, a psychiatrist specializing in mood disorders, notes that our brains are not equipped to handle the relentless influx of idealized lives. When a patient comes to me with chronic anxiety or a depressive episode, she explains, one of the first things we explore is their relationship with social media. The brain processes these constant comparisons as a form of chronic stress. This triggers the release of cortisol, the stress hormone, which, over time, can lead to a cascade of physical and mental health issues. It's a feedback loop. The comparison creates anxiety, which increases cortisol, which then makes us more susceptible to feelings of inadequacy and low self-esteem. We see this manifesting as sleep disorders, chronic fatigue, and even physical ailments linked to inflammation. The pressure to live a perfect life isn't just a metaphor, it's a biological stressor with very real consequences for our bodies. A historical insight. The urge to compare is as old as humanity itself, a fundamental aspect of how we've understood our place in the world. Historians and sociologists, however, note a critical shift in the nature of this comparison. In agrarian or pre-industrial societies, our reference group was small and local. You compared yourself to your neighbors, your family, or your community. The scope was limited, and the comparisons were grounded in tangible realities: the size of a harvest, the strength of a home, the health of a family. But the rise of mass media and now the internet obliterated these local boundaries. As the renowned sociologist Emile Durkheim theorized, a lack of social norms and a sense of belonging, a state he called anomie, can lead to individual despair. In a globalized, digitally connected world, we are in a state of mass anomie. We have a million reference points but no true anchor. The comparisons are no longer with a single neighbor, but with 1,000 strangers, all of whom are performing on a stage that makes genuine human connection impossible. Another physician's perspective. Dr. James Chen, a behavioral health specialist, provides a more nuanced view. He argues that while comparison is a natural human tendency, the context in which we do it has become a pathology. The problem isn't the act of comparison itself, he says, but the highly curated, non-reciprocal nature of digital comparison. In real life, when we compare ourselves to a peer, we also see their struggles, their bad days, and their vulnerabilities. This humanizes them and creates a more balanced, albeit still imperfect frame of reference. On social media, we only see the highlight reel, a meticulously edited version of a life. The brain, however, doesn't always distinguish between the real and the perceived. It sees success without struggle, beauty without blemishes, and a life of constant joy. This distorted reality creates a psychological trap, making us believe that our own struggles are unique failures, rather than a normal, inevitable part of the human experience. We lose empathy for ourselves and for others, and in that process, we lose a vital component of mental resilience. The world is a canvas of light and shadow, and for so long we have been mesmerized by the false glow of a spotlight that was never meant for us. We've chased the fleeting applause of an anonymous crowd, mistaking the echo of their approval for the resonance of our own soul. But as the sun sets on this digital stage, casting long, peaceful shadows, a deeper truth emerges. Our worth was never a number, our life never a performance. It was a silent whisper in the rustling leaves, a fleeting moment of warmth from a forgotten cup of tea, a single, deliberate breath taken in the quiet dawn. This is where we find our true freedom. Not in the grand gestures, not in the public triumphs, but in the small, intimate moments that belong only to us. The silent act of turning off the screen, of feeling the cold air on our skin, of simply being present in our own lives. The Stoics teach us that the richest soil for our contentment is not found in the external world, but in the landscape of our own minds. It's here, in the fertile ground of acceptance and self-awareness, that we can plant the seeds of our own peace. So let us walk away from the noise. Let us leave the performance behind, for the cage was never locked from the outside. The bars were never made of steel but of our own restless desires. And the key, a simple and profound truth, has been in our hand all along. It is the wisdom to know what we can control and the courage to release the rest. The final act of a meaningful life is not to be seen but to see. Not to be known by all but to know ourselves. The stage lights dim, the curtain falls. And as we find ourselves in the quiet darkness, we realize the most beautiful show of all was the one we never knew we were living. A life simply and wonderfully our own. The prison is not the world outside, but the one we build within. And the key has been in our hand all along.